Look at this beautiful creamy yogurt. Isn't that gorgeous? Your gut is the foundation of your health. Just like the foundation of your house, everything is built on that. If anything's going wrong in the shape and the structure of the house, the foundation could be the problem. So in your gut, you know that more hormones are made in your gut than in your brain. Your immune system happens in your gut. Your mood, if there's a problem with your mood, the problem could be your gut. If you've got skin issues, the root cause could be the gut. So yogurt is one of the best things that you can eat. Think about ancient cultures. They didn't have refrigeration. So they ate a lot of cultured fermented foods, and that's what we should do to have a healthy gut. Wide variety of cultured foods and small quantities a few times a day. So I've been making my own yogurt based on Dr. Davis's Super Gut recipe. This is very different from your traditional yogurt that is cultured for 12 hours in the stove or in a warm corner of the kitchen, for example. The thing that's different about this is that it's cultured 36 hours. That's one of the differences. Think about compound interest at the bank. You make a little bit of money and then suddenly your interest shoots sky high. Every day you're making exponentially more money. Same thing with the cultures. For the first about 30 hours, you're gradually getting more and more of that beneficial bacteria in your yogurt, but after 30 hours, it exponentially increases. You should not culture beyond 36 because you're going to end up getting a little more fungus, and that's not what you want. So I'm going to start from the beginning. I've been gathering all of these samples for you to watch. I'm going to start with the beginning, and I'm going to show you what happens in the middle, and then the finished product. In the Super Gut book, there is information about which culture produces which results. So I have many different cultures that I use, and I always make a different one. I make yogurt about once a week. We go through about this much in a week. And then I typically will make 2 batches at once because 2 of these jars will fit in my pan. I just have to be sure that they're compatible because different cultures need to be cultured at a different temperature. So I do have a chart that shares all of this information. The book is priceless. So to start with, I bought these 6-cup jars on Amazon. I like that because when I'm making my yogurt, excuse me, let me get out my starter here. I'm using 4 cups of milk and cream to start. So if I put 4 cups in a 6-cup container, I have room for stirring and expansion because sometimes the yogurt expands more than others while it's culturing. One tip that I can suggest, because this is going to be different for all of you. There are different bacteria in the air where you live. You have a different level of humidity than I do. The half and half that's available in your grocery store might be different, but what I found is that I found one that worked well, and I buy the same brand every time because I found that if I switched to a different brand, I got different results. So I like the Organic Valley grass-fed half and half. Dr. Davis's research is based on using half and half. So this is what I use. When I start with a new batch, I do use sugar. You can use potato starch. I use organic raw cane sugar because it mixes a lot easier than the potato starch, but you have to pay attention to the culture that you're using. Some of them should not use sugar. Some of them should not use potato starch. So you need to know which one is which. So I'm putting 2 tablespoons of sugar in my jar. What I'm making today is SIBO yogurt. So it uses, and I can't even say these words, they are so long, Lactobacillus gasseri. Now today I'm going to teach you what ancient wisdom says, which is you should not use metal utensils. I used metal to measure my sugar, so it didn't actually touch any of the yogurt. I have used a metal whisk to mix this up, and it has been okay, but the ancient traditional rule says don't use metal while you're making yogurt. So with this capsule, I'm going to open it up. I'm actually going to come close to the camera if I can get it out of there and let you see it. It is like a brick inside this capsule. And the first several times that I used it, I actually got out a meat tenderizer and I tried to crush it, and that really didn't work very well. I'm going to show you that it's a solid brick there. I dropped the capsule in there. I don't want to do that. Let me backtrack a second. In a perfect world, you should probably sterilize this. I don't. It's never been a problem for me. So I just throw the capsule in there. So I've taught you what to do, the ancient wisdom, and I've taught you what I actually do, what works in my kitchen. The second culture I'm using is Bacillus coagulans. So I will take 1 capsule of that. Here's what I suggest. Do this with a friend, because when you buy, this is 80 capsules. This would last forever, because I'm going to teach you how to use previous batches of yogurt to make to use as starter next time. So you can share this with 80 people. So I'm going to open up that capsule. This one is just powdery. So I'm going to empty the capsule there. Throw that away. And then it calls for reuteri. This is Lactobacillus reuteri. And I like this brand, Cultures for Health. That is my favorite. The other one was a lot harder to mix. So I'm going to pour that in there. Reuteri by itself is an amazing culture. If you go Google the benefits of reuteri, you will want some. That will motivate you to make this yogurt. Once you learn how to do it, it truly, truly is easy. It probably takes me about 5 minutes to make my yogurt. I have all of my cultures in a basket with my potato starch and my cheat sheet, which tells me which temperature to use for which of the cultures. Like for SIBO yogurt that I'm making today, I'm going to culture it at 106. If I'm doing reuteri by itself, it needs to be at 100. Some of them even need, coagulans needs to be cultured at 115. So big difference there. So I've got my sugar in there, I have my cultures in there. At the end of the 36 hours, the bacteria will have eaten up all the sugar. So there won't be any carbs or any sugar left. It does leave a tiny little sweet taste. Now I eat a very low sugar diet, so my taste buds are very sensitive to sugar, but even for the average person, it tastes a little bit sweet, but not syrupy sweet like those in the grocery store. So there's all of my cultures and my sugar. So then I'm going to put 2 pints of half and half. And then I do have a silicone scraper that I will use to stir it. Remember that one of those capsules, the culture was very hard. So what I'm going to do after I mix it up, I'm going to let it sit for a little while, maybe 30 minutes or an hour. And then I'm going to stir it again, and it will mix up beautifully. I have done this many times, and it has never been a problem. It has always become mixed up, and it cultures very easily. So I'm going to fill this up. I use a sous vide instead of a yogurt maker because I prefer having my yogurt in a big jar instead of having 6 or 8 little tiny jars. Plus, when I used a yogurt maker with 6 or 8 little jars, it was very inconsistent. Some of them would get cultured beautifully and be thick and gorgeous, and some of them would separate. And so I just get much better results with this. Plus, I would just rather have one thing in my refrigerator, one thing to wash. 2 of them will fit in my container, so I can culture both at the same time. So I'm going to culture it at the correct temperature for that specific culture for 36 hours. So what that means for me is that I'm going to do it, I'll start it at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it will be ready not that night, but the next night at 8 p.m. Or I'll do the opposite. I'll start it at 8 p.m. and it will be ready not the next night, but the morning, 36 hours later at 8 a.m. So you have to think ahead because you don't want it getting done in the middle of the night. So there's our food is sugar or potato starch. There's our cultures. There's our half and half. Those are the tools that we're using. One more thing that I do leave the lid open. I don't latch it closed because then it might burst. But I do cover the whole pan with a towel. I don't want dust. If there's a mosquito or a fly in my house, I don't want that to get into my yogurt. So I do cover it. That also keeps it a little bit insulated. Okay, so at the end of 36 hours, I'm going to show you what your first batch might look like. Sometimes your first batch turns out perfectly, but sometimes it doesn't. And I'm going to show you. This is so ugly. I hope you'll be able to see it. See how it's all separated? And if I open it and look in there, oh yeah, it's ugly. It looks kind of like cottage cheese. You can eat it. And it's perfectly healthy. It's just not beautiful. And so most people are not going to want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. Honestly, I will eat most of it. But what I'm going to do to start with is I have a silicone ice tray. Silicone is safe and non-toxic unless you're cooking with it. Silicone is natural, and there are toxins in the earth naturally occurring. And so silicone can have toxins in it that can break down at higher temperatures. But using it cold is perfectly fine. This holds 2 tablespoons. So I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of my yogurt in my silicone ice tray. I will freeze that. And then, notice this is my mood yogurt. It has 2 specific cultures that are great for making you happy. And I put those in there. I have all of my little starters in there. So if I were making a subsequent batch of yogurt, in my jar, I would put my sugar or potato starch. I would put 1 brick of my starter, put my half and half in there, let my starter melt, and then it's ready to start culturing. But I'm going to tell you what I actually do that does work. Because sometimes I forget and I don't have time to let it thaw. So I'll drop it in there, I'll get it started. And after about 10 or 20 minutes, I will come and stir it to be sure that the starter, the frozen starter, melted and got mixed up effectively. The ancient wisdom is once you start your yogurt, you should not stir it. And what I have found is if I stir in the beginning, the first 30 minutes or an hour, it works perfectly fine. I've never had a problem with that. So that is how I do it from scratch. What I do in the middle when it doesn't turn out beautiful, and then I showed you the end result. So I hope that this will help you to start making yogurt more easily and effectively.